Hey guys, today I'm gonna talk about what I think the Warriors should do in order to get to the finals. After a tragic defeat in the finals last season, both literally and figuratively, the Warriors roster this season has drastically changed, looking like they won't even make the playoffs. They lost KD, Iggy, some key players, and they will not have Clay until before the start or maybe during the playoffs next year. Granted, they did get D'Angelo Russell in the KD trade and some new players that have decent 3-point shooting. The defense really took a hit. KD's underrated defense on the paint is a big deal, especially since he can challenge drive-bys and dunks if Draymond is out of position, and his transition defense and chase down is up there with LeBron and Kawhi. Iggy's lockdown man-to-man defense is also one of, if not the biggest loss the Warriors had to take in order to sign D'Lo and re-sign Clay. And recently, they also waived Alfonso McKinney in order to secure a roster spot for Marquise Chris. There's not even a true small forward in the roster, and the 3 position is as ever as weak since the first title run. Shout out to McKinney, he was a decent 3-and-D guy off the bench last season. He had his moments, shame he didn't win a ring with them. D-Russ fits very well with Steve Kerr's motion offense. When he has the ball, Steph could just regularly serve as a decoy, absorbing 1 or 2 defender, and then D-Russ can just make plays for the rest of the team or score on his own. He understands and executes the pick and roll very well. Having him at the start of the season is like having the Steph and Clay 1-2 combo. This is just my opinion, but I think they should just use Russell until December and find a trade in January or February. I mean, keeping Russell makes sense. He can run the offense when Curry is resting, and he can also score on his own. But Russell doesn't play D, and defense is already weaker than ever. In my opinion, what they really need to do to compete come the playoffs is to bolster the small forward position. A wing that can be a go-to guy when they really need a bucket when it's clutch time, kinda like what KD, Kawhi, and other elite players in this position. No disrespect to Curry, but there is a limit to what he can do offensively. Because of his size and length, placing a taller and longer defender will make it very difficult for him to score if not completely shutting him down. A few years ago, the NBA was torn if Harden or Clay was the best SG in the league. Now it seems completely clear that Harden is that guy. Clay is still a great scorer and a consistent one, but he never really had that off-the-dribble isolation play, nor does he have that pick-and-roll play that Harden has. I think if he developed this skill in his play, he'll be a much more complete player, but sadly, he doesn't. And it all goes back to how him and Steph is utilized in Steve Kerr's motion offense. And we've all seen that he tends to get inconsistent during the playoffs, because coming off the screen and quick triggering shots will be much harder because of the increased physicality. I mean, if they face the Clippers in the first or second round, PG and Kawhi is gonna suffocate them with their length and size. Coach Doc could just put Beverly on Russell, then Kawhi and PG on Steph and Clay, and shut down the offense completely. Curry won't be able to slip so easily on Kawhi because the refs allow players to get more physical to Curry during the playoffs. And also, if they run into the Lakers, they won't be able to stop LeBron. But if they find the right trade for Russell, they might be able to solve the weak spot in the lineup. And here are the trades that I think would make the Warriors contender again. Trade for Jimmy Butler. The best candidate I have in mind was Jimmy Butler. He can do pretty much KD things, only 1 or 2 skill level below him. A great two-way wing that is a reliable scorer, strong and skilled enough to score against the top wings of the West, and is also capable of defending them on the other end of the court. But since he is pretty much the franchise player of the Miami Heat at this point, this would be very difficult to pull off. It may require a third team that is willing to take Dragic's expiring contract, and that would also allow them to receive a small forward to fill up Jimmy's position. Jimmy Butler doesn't really fit Miami's timeline. The roster is not built to compete. Their second best player is Waiters. Dragic and James Johnson is not worth $20 million, $15 million a year. And there's not enough veteran presence because they only have 3 players that are in their 30s and the rest are in their 20s. Russell, who is 23, will be a better fit, and they can steadily improve in the next couple of years. On the other hand, Curry, Butler, Clay, and Green are all in their primes, and the mix of their talents would be good enough to compete or even win the finals. Trade for Robert Covington and Jeff Teague. This seems to be the most plausible. Covington may not be that go-to ISO guy in the clutch, but his defense will help the Warriors slow down the top assets in the West. He is also a very reliable spot-up shooter, and is also in a very good contract of $11.5 million a year. The trade would be Covington and Teague, maybe a few picks for Russell, and a player or two to balance the salary. This makes sense for the timeline of both teams. The Wolves will get a younger and better offensive point guard that has a better gravity than Jeff Teague and will steadily improve together with Towns and Wiggins. On the other hand, the Warriors will get a solid 3-and-D wing and a reliable point guard in Teague, who is also an expiring contract next season, which is good for signing quality role players. Trade with Orlando. I have 3 trade scenarios for Orlando: Terrence Ross, Gigi Augustin, and Jonathan Isaac. This trade may seem to be puzzling, but Orlando has a surplus in the SG to SF position, and maybe giving up Jonathan Isaac, a former top 6 pick that has the potential to be an all-star or become a bust. DJ Augustin is a veteran guard that could make plays from the bench, and T. Ross a 15-point per game player that is also clutch during go-ahead basket scenarios. These 3 players for an all-star guard that is a 21-point per game all-star scorer that can play pick and roll with Gordon and Vucevic, and will surely take advantage of Coach Steve Clifford's offense. Plus, if the Markelle Fultz experiment doesn't pan out, Fultz could serve as a backup for Russell. Number 2. Aaron Gordon and DJ Augustin or Terrence Ross. Aaron Gordon is more of a stretch forward that sometimes plays as a small forward. He can run the floor, shoot a 3, pass and post up a bit. His defense is just average, not a lockdown player, but strong enough to contain wings in the likes of Paul George. He's not that much of a score on his own type of player, or that make plays on his own, but he can stretch the floor, and he's definitely gonna catch a ton of lobs playing with Draymond as the ball handler. The Magic then get Russell to play alongside with Mo Bamba, Jonathan Isaac, and Vucevic. Number 3. Mo Bamba, Terrence Ross, and DJ Augustin. Out of all the trade scenarios with Orlando, I like this one the best. Mo Bamba has the potential to become great, but he's not gonna get that much playing time with Vucevic as starting center. Plus, they recently acquired Aminu as backup center. If Bamba is traded to the Warriors, he'll be able to start as center with Draymond and Looney as backup. He can spread the floor, he can catch lobs, and he can defend the paint with his height and length. Orlando drafts really great prospects, but they end up trading them away because they don't know how to develop them. Just look at what happened to Oladipo and Tobias Harris. They are now prominent max contract players because the teams they were traded to had structure and they didn't have to compete for minutes with other young players who are also trying to prove that they deserve to have a spot in the roster. Now that Steve Clifford is the coach, they seem to have a direction now. But I don't think the current roster fits his system, and that's why I think trading for Russell really makes sense for them. Trade for Ben Simmons. This one is a bit of a stretch. I don't think they'd ever trade Simmons or Embiid, seeing as both have really high ceilings and would become very dominant once they enter their prime. Ben Simmons looks and plays like he's going to be the next LeBron James. His passing and court vision is almost at the same level. His drives and dunks are just as scary. But the thing with him is his shooting is just a non-factor in the playoffs, especially during closing time where he is basically unplayable, which could be a reason for them to finally trading him off after 2 runs in the playoffs. Recently he made a couple of threes in a practice video and also in the preseason. If it's anything, it's a good sign. But can you really rely on it on the playoffs? Compare that to having a legit shooter in Russell who has also proved that he is clutch in many situations. And the spacing will be so much better for Embiid to operate, since the other 4 can now legitimately hit the outside shot. On the other hand, if the Warriors have Simmons, they will now have a ball handler that has so much drive threat as KD, but will have so much space to work with by having 2 of the best shooters in the history of the game. And he doesn't really have to handle so much in the offense since Curry and Green could just make plays for them. Defensively, he is not really a man-to-man type defender that can shut down the other player, as he's never shown that much effort to defending, but he can contain and slow them down. And team-wise, he has great awareness to cut through the passing lanes and score in transition. Now, with the trade pieces that the Warriors currently have, it is very difficult to acquire assets in the 8 to 15 mil range. And in order to trade for these players, there needs to be a third team involved to balance the salaries. But here are a couple of players that can definitely help anchor the defense of the Warriors: Kyle Anderson, Kelly Oubre Jr., Jay Crowder, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Torrey Craig. Maybe the Warriors would trade him, or maybe they'd just hold on to him and try this roster and see how far it gets them to the playoffs. I mean, Russell is a young talent, steadily improving and on a good contract. He could just become the backup for the rebuild in the instance that they break this core. Curry is gonna be 32. Curry and Draymond are all gonna be 30 next year. It's still within prime years, but the decline is close. Although these guys are not really that much reliant on athleticism. But there may be some of the aspects of the game that they could be slower to or unable to keep up due to the increasing pace of the game. I can only see that the best way to utilize the last couple of prime years of this core is to get Jimmy Butler or Robert Covington. But that's just my opinion. It's possible that Kerr may be able to develop the offense to be better than without KG. Even if he did, they still need that defensive stopper. This could be the beginning of the end of an era, or maybe a birth of a new one. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Please click like if you liked the video, or dislike if you hated the video. And subscribe as I have more videos in the making in the next few days. Plus click the bell for the latest videos. And I'm gonna end this video Visa style. And as always, thanks for watching.